She made a big sign saying to Watkins Glen, and they were planning to hitchhike there. You could get a ride into town relatively easily with somebody. She borrowed a sleeping bag from a friend, said, I'll be back on Monday.
We expected him back on, I think, Sunday night.
It's considered one of the oldest active missing teens case in the U.S. Two young people going off on a big adventure together and never coming home. Mitch Weiser and Bonnie Bickwit have now been missing for 50 years. How did this young couple disappear heading to a music festival? It's time to turn on the searchlight for Mitch and Bonnie. Welcome back to Brain Scratch Searchlight. I'm John Lordan. Thank you so much for caring about these cases like I do. The young couple that we're discussing here today met while they both attended John Dewey High School in Brooklyn, New York. John Dewey is an alternative school for children with high intelligence who want to stay on track for a successful future. During the summer of 1973, both teens were busy and had big plans for their break from school. 15-year-old Bonita Bickwit, who goes by Bonnie, was attending Camp Wellmet in Narrowsburg. According to the New York Times, Wellmet was founded as the Metropolitan Jewish Centers Camp Association in May of 1935 and became one of the nation's largest sleepaway camps, with well over 1,000 campers each summer. Bonnie also worked as a mother's helper or nanny for a family in the nearby Narrowsburg community. 16-year-old Mitch Weiser, who had a love of photography, was working as a photographer's assistant in Brooklyn that summer, and Mitch was also planning on attending the Summer Jam in Watkins Glen. Wikipedia tells us that the Summer Jam was being held at Watkins Glen's famous Grand Prix racetrack. It featured the Allman Brothers Band, the Grateful Dead, and the band. The 1973 event held the Guinness Book of World Records entry for largest audience at a pop festival, with an estimated 600,000 fans in attendance in a town of only about 2,700 people. Similar to the 1969 Woodstock Festival, an enormous traffic jam created chaos for those who attempted to make it to the concert site. Long and narrow county roads forced fans to abandon their vehicles and walk 5 to 8 miles on a hot summer day. During the afternoon of Thursday, July 26th, Mitch left his home in Flatbush, a neighborhood in Brooklyn, New York, and started his journey to Summer Jam. Originally, he planned to take a friend with him, but at the last minute, his friend's mother wouldn't allow him to go to the concert. Mitch decided to take Bonnie with him instead. His friend's mother wasn't the only one with reservations about the concert. Shirley, Mitch's mother, wasn't happy with his decision to go either. She and Susan, Mitch's sister, asked him to stay, but he stuck to his plans. They argued that he probably needed more than the $25 he had in his pocket to make the trip. As he left, his mother told him that she would give him more money, but he left anyway without taking it. After a 3-hour bus ride to Narrowsburg, Mitch took a cab the rest of the way to Camp Wellmet to meet Bonnie. He arrived at about midnight and called his house and spoke to his sister. He was already running low on money, and when his family again expressed their worry about the trip, Mitch brushed them off and told them he would see them after the festival on Sunday. That night, the couple stayed at Camp Wellmet. The next morning, they had breakfast in the mess hall before starting out. Hitchhiking was the quickest, cheapest way to get where they were going. They rode from Wellmet back to Narrowsburg with a man driving a pickup truck. After thanking him for the ride, they took their belongings, including their backpacks and sleeping bags, and walked the roadside on Highway 97, holding a sign that said Watkins Glen. That would be the last confirmed sighting of the young couple. When Sunday the 29th arrived, Mitch didn't call or return as he had told his family. On Monday, Shirley called Camp Wellmet to see if he was spending extra time with Bonnie, only to find out that she hadn't returned either. Fearing the worst, it was decided that Mitch's father, Sidney, and Mitch's sister, Susan, would drive to Watkins Glen to look for the couple. Shirley stayed anxiously waiting to see if Mitch would call or come home. Bonnie's parents weren't aware of her absence until they returned from a family trip to Cape Cod on Tuesday. Someone from camp called, asking where Bonnie was. Her parents then learned that she had snuck away from camp that weekend to attend Summer Jam. They had no idea she was going to do this, and they were panicked to find out that she was missing. Her parents, Ted and Ray, drove to Camp Wilmette. When they didn't find her there, the police were called and she was reported missing. The two families were initially relieved when officers stepped in, and they expected the incident to be quickly put to rest. Unfortunately, they would later feel that investigators just didn't take their cases seriously. There had been no violence at Summer Jam. Only one person died, but it was a tragic accident. 35-year-old Willard Smith, who was a skydiver from Syracuse, New York, jumped from a plane holding flares, and one of those flares lit his jumpsuit on fire. He was found in the woods nearby. To investigators, Bonnie and Mitch's case looked like two teens who had simply run away together. When people at Wilmette were questioned, they stated that Bonnie had quit her job to attend the concert. They also learned that during the summer, the couple had exchanged wedding rings. Investigators thought it was clear that the couple had just run away to elope, and they told the families, just wait and they'll show back up. As time wore on, though, everyone started to suspect that this wasn't a simple case of a love-struck couple running off on their own. Investigating on their own behalf, the families found a few things that elevated their concerns. The week before their disappearance, a neighbor saw Bonnie at her parents' home. She had snuck away from camp and returned home while her parents were away. She took $80 that she had been saving for a bicycle and then went back to camp. Even though the letters she sent her parents were upbeat and talked about how she enjoyed her freedom at camp, they also talked about her desire to travel and that she wished her parents would support her in that. When people at camp were questioned, it was found that she was also having trouble with the family that she was working for, and that Bonnie quitting her job was much more dramatic than was initially thought. Not only did she complain of being taken advantage of, but claimed that the couple made her work 16-hour days. When she asked for the weekend off to go to the concert, they told her no. This made her angry, so she quit on the spot. She told the family that she would be by for her last paycheck and clothes after she and Mitch got back from the concert. Of course, that never happened. In the days before his disappearance, Mitch seemed worried about his future and that he wouldn't be able to afford to attend Brooklyn University as he was planning on doing after his high school graduation. However, he still had plans back at home. He was excited to have a driving lesson the week after he returned from the concert at Watkins Glen, and he was due to take his driving test the following month. Many other friends of the couple stated that they didn't notice anything wrong leading up to their disappearance. Bonnie's best friend had spent the summer in Europe. She stated that the two exchanged letters and nothing seemed out of the ordinary. 6 weeks after the couple disappeared, neither family had heard from the missing teens, and the investigators didn't seem to be very helpful. It was up to those families to continue working to find them. Thousands of missing persons flyers were mailed out to raise awareness. Hundreds of letters were written to different police departments and newspapers all across the United States. When the summer break ended and neither child had returned, their families knew that something had gone terribly wrong. The families have never given up hope of finding Mitch and Bonnie. In 1979, Bonnie's father, Ted, passed away, but her mother refused to leave their home in case Bonnie ever came back looking for them. Mitch's parents moved to Arizona in 1984, but they continued to pay the New York telephone company to keep their new number listed in case Mitch ever tried to find them. There have been several theories and unconfirmed sightings in this case. One particularly heartbreaking incident occurred in 1987. Mitch's father, Sidney, received a call one day at his Arizona home. The operator told him that he had a collect call from Bonnie and asked if he would like to accept the charges. His adrenaline surged as he told the operator of course he would. Unfortunately, after only a few seconds, the operator came back on the line and told him that the caller had hung up. The call was never verified to have come from Bonnie, and some fear that it was actually a hoax. At one point, Bonnie's family received a fundraising letter for a reservation in South Dakota. Hoping that it was Bonnie and that she and maybe Mitch were there, the tip was investigated. But no signs of them were found and no connection to the letter was made. Other tips came in, but none of them really panned out. Psychics were also consulted, but nothing was helping to lead these families any closer to their missing loved ones. Then, a major upset in Mitch and Bonnie's case occurred in 1998. On the 25th anniversary of their disappearance, investigators decided to take a fresh look. The family knew that little to no investigation on the case was conducted previously, but now they found out that the original case file had been lost, and it contained the only copies of Mitch and Bonnie's dental records. In a time before DNA evidence, these would have been instrumental in identification efforts. Also, the original investigating agency was actually the Sullivan County Sheriff's Office, where Narrowsburg is located. When they were asked for their case information, they too admitted that they had lost their original case file as well. In 1994, a push was made to bring this case back into the public's mind. Woodstock 94 was being held, and some attendees handed out flyers, hoping to jog the memories of possible attendees that had attended the Summer Jam at Watkins Glen back in 1973. The New York State Attorney General was appealed to in 2000, and although his office promised to follow up with the appropriate agencies, 9/11 took place a year later, and soon all focus on Mitch and Bonnie's investigation was lost yet again. NCMEC, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, produced age-progressed photos that were featured all over the country, and a troubling lead came in after the MSNBC show Missing Persons aired an episode on this case in October of 2000. A man named Alan Smith stated that he had attended the Summer Jam concert as well. While he hitchhiked home, he was picked up by a man in an orange VW Bug van with Pennsylvania license plates. He stated that both he and the driver were using drugs at the time, but this is his recollection of events. On Sunday, the 29th, they had picked up Mitch and Bonnie. While they rode in the van, neither teen drank or did any drugs, and the two appeared to be completely sober. One other hitchhiker was picked up, but this man was, quote, extremely stoned and simply slept in the back of the van as they drove. At some point, it was decided that the group would stop at either the Chemung or Susquehanna rivers to cool off on the hot summer day. His story continues that somehow Bonnie either fell into the water or was overcome by the current. Mitch jumped in to try to save her, but both were pulled downriver. Everyone present thought the two had drowned, so they got back in their van and went on their way, telling no one about what had happened. When investigators tried to verify Alan's story, however, everything seemed to fall apart. He was unable to show where the van had stopped that day, and when the coroner's offices in the surrounding towns and counties were contacted, none had received any unidentified bodies matching the area or description during that time frame. Alan was also unable to pick the two missing teens out of a photo lineup or even simply describe what they had been wearing. In April of 2001, an inmate in Maryland claimed to have killed Mitch and Bonnie, but he was also found to not be involved. A property 30 minutes away from Watkins Glen was also said to be hiding their bodies, but when that property was searched, no evidence of them was found. Yet another property in Bath, New York was investigated in 2020, and again, nothing was found. To this day, no one has any idea what happened to this young couple. To be honest, we don't even know if they actually made it to Summer Jam. Mitch's best friend, Stuart, has spent hours upon hours looking through photos taken during that weekend, but has never seen any trace of Mitch or Bonnie. No credible account has ever been given to show that they were picked up and taken to Watkins Glen, nor has anyone come forward with stories of them actually being there. To this day, the surviving family members still hold out hope of hearing from Mitch or Bonnie. Mitch's sister Susan is now a book dealer and mother of 2 in Brooklyn. She has stayed all these years hoping that he would contact her. In her apartment, she's kept a box of Mitch's belongings. It contains his 1969 Mets World Series ticket stubs and souvenir trading cards from the 1964 World's Fair. More personally, it contains his old tortoiseshell eyeglasses, poems, and a giant birthday card from the party thrown by his friends for his 15th birthday. She hopes someday to be able to return those keepsakes directly to her brother. Bonita Mara Bickwit was 15 years old when she went missing in 1973. She stood at about 4 foot 11 inches tall and weighed about 90 pounds. Reports vary from the time of disappearance to today, but it's believed that Bonnie was wearing blue denim dungarees or overalls and a t-shirt. Mitchell Fred Weiser was 16 years old when he went missing with Bonnie in 1973. He has brown hair and brown to hazel eyes. He stood at about 5 foot 7 inches tall at the time and weighed about 140 pounds. He wore metal gold-rimmed glasses and had shoulder-length hair that parted down the middle and was usually tied at the back. He was last seen wearing blue denim dungarees or overalls, a t-shirt, boots, and he also had an olive plaid flannel shirt with him. Please share this video with friends in the area to help us keep this awareness raised to this case. And if you have any information about Mitch or Bonnie, or any photographs from the 1973 Watkins Glen Summer Jam, please contact the Sullivan County Sheriff's Department at 845-807-0732. Since 2015, we have always run limited commercial ads for the benefit of the viewers and the families that we're trying to help. Obviously, we can't do that without support. A big thank you to PayPal supporters Amanda Beard, Jennifer Wilson, and Larissa Mertshank. If you'd like to help us out, please visit LordanArts.com. There you can sign up for Patreon, sign up for PayPal, buy merchandise, or even just buy us a coffee like Ann Peters recently did. We really appreciate your support on our mission to run as few ads as possible and help as many cases as we can. Thank you, Michael Caudle, for bringing this case to our attention. And thank you to our sources, mitchellandbonnie.com, The Charlie Project, the Doe Network, NamUs, The True Crime Files, CrimeInTheCity.net, and the New York Times. Let's keep those eyes, ears, and hearts open and looking for Bonnie and Mitch. It's never too late for these families to get their answers. I'll see you again here soon on the LordanArts channel.